In this episode, I run an old Nvidia card on Linux. I fight with my Wi-Fi and I connect a laptop to a television. Some say Linux Mint is the best distro to start with. The Linux you install on Nana's laptop or recommend to your mate who's finally ready to move away from Windows. You see, I'm not one of them. Don't get me wrong, the installer is brilliant. The browser browses and your Office files file. It's stable, familiar, maybe a bit dreary, but for millions of people it would just work. Until it hits a wall of professional proportions. We'll pick this up later on. But now an important piece of news for all owners of heritage Nvidia cards. Like this old Quadro. Nvidia has recently released an updated driver for legacy cards like this Quadro K2200. As of January 13th, 2026, the Nvidia 580-12609 driver is available for Linux. It provides certain bug fixes and better compatibility with current Linux kernels. If you are on an older Kepler card, go to nvidia.com and check out if your card is supported. This new driver gave me a good opportunity to test Linux Mint's driver manager. And here's how we got on. The card install is as dodgy as always, since the card doesn't physically fit into the Optiplex case. But the driver manager is a breeze to use. And after a mandatory restart, we are up and running. Brilliant! So that means Linux Mint is now ready for all your professional needs. Or is it? Let's envision you are the kind of traveling professional that relies on their laptop to visually aid their work. Or you need large screen compatibility for presentations or 3D modeling purposes. I know an Acer Aspire 5 is not necessarily the kind of hardware for the 3D modeling task. But it's ready on everything, and you will see why the hardware isn't the issue. So let's see what happens when we connect Linux Mint via HDMI to a TV. Not exactly a tall order in this day and age. But oh dearie me, Linux Mint can't even determine if the auxiliary screen is turned on or not. Okay, it starts up like this. No login screen, no login option. You have no mouse pointer, and I know that the mouse pointer is now on this screen, even though this screen is off. It is just connected via a HDMI cord, and it can already not recognize that this screen is turned off. So, but I also know that what I set up here is the screen layout. This is standard on the left in the settings. So if I now go with my mouse pointer on the invisible screen all the way to the left, I was wrong, because apparently now it's all the way on the right. There we go. So go out this way. Now we have a login screen. You also see we now have no taskbar, because it's once again on the turned off screen. So now let's guess where our mouse pointer is. There we go. Okay, let's see what our display setting actually is like. See, our small screen is in the upper right corner randomly. I mean, it doesn't know where it is, that I get. And then we have this screen, even though it's not turned on. Like, it recognizes a 4K display here, but you only have 100% and 200% scaling. Let's see what the TV thing does. Oh look, the adjust for TV button still doesn't do anything. Let's turn the TV on. see what we get. So I now have still the welcome screen. Yeah, this drives me nuts. I have to rearrange this first. Roughly here. So check this again. Adjust for TV. Why is there an option that just doesn't do anything? The scaling options in 100% steps are, quite frankly, useless. Yes, one can activate fractional scaling as an experimental option. Seriously? Folks, it's 2026. How is this acceptable? But don't worry, if you want multi-monitor support, you can switch to an equally experimental Wayland session. Well, that just made things worse. General glitchiness and context menus that accompany you all the way to the logout screen. By the way, Mint can also not connect to my 4K monitor on my desk unless I turn on my main computer as well, simply because the HDMI is hooked up via a bypass capture card. Let me tell you, my wife's Dell with Windows 11 just hooks up without reconfiguring the HDMI cords. How do I know? Because this is exactly the setup she uses on her work from home days, without a problem. Remember that wall I mentioned? Someone might have just knocked a door through it. Imagine a company developing a product that gives their customers a good user experience without them calling tech support every time they want to watch a movie on a hotel TV from their laptop. Enter System76 and their brand new Cosmic Pop OS. The scaling works brilliantly. Let's see how it's getting on with a deactivated screen attached. Oh look, the login screen is on the main screen, you know? The one attached to the laptop, not on the imaginary turned off screen. Let's see what it tells us in our display settings. It recognizes that there is a screen, and since we set that up before, it's actually still in the same place. Funny how that can work, huh? And here comes the thing. I can go here, scale on this screen, and go to 125%. There we go. Or I can even go to 50%. We go to 100%. Here we go. Arrange the panel, and here it is. I would say this is how this should work. Everything is rather smooth and the interface is clearly laid out. Yes, I'm looking at you, KDE. Your menu layout is a mess. This is pretty much what I would expect as a paying customer, and System76 delivers. So is Pop OS the answer? Well, not exactly. On the Optiplex I had this weird bug that every time I turned the volume up above the standard 39%, the audio would fail entirely. And here you can see that it had some problem with my Wi-Fi dongle. Well, actually, that was my own stupidity. While faffing about with the Nvidia card, I actually broke my Wi-Fi adapter. Anyway, since we are on the topic of Nvidia cards, it needs to be stated that Pop OS doesn't come with a handy-dandy driver manager. You have to install it via the terminal. And the outcome is a tad glitchy. Now, I can't really blame System76 for this. They focus on providing the best experience for their customers. And they usually have machines with AMD or Nvidia 16 series cards or newer, not a GPU from the Stone Age. But here's the thing. Instead of digging around in the dark and playing the guessing game, you can just go to System76's website, look at their hardware specs, and as long as you're somewhere in the ballpark, you will probably have a brilliant time. That way, you can enjoy Cosmic's party piece, the tiling manager. A fantastic implementation when you are in need of that feature but can't commit full-time to such a desktop environment. However, as a native German speaker, the name Pop! OS always seemed a bit odd. Right, let me ask you a question. I reviewed several distros, flavors and spin in this series so far. Would you be willing to pay for one of them? Just put yourself into this situation. You are a professional, a freelancer, or someone who needs a new business laptop with certain expectations for hardware and software support. And you have a budget of roughly $1,500. Which one would you buy? The machine with Windows 11 or the one with Linux Mint, if that would be an option? Yeah, I know the answer is the MacBook. Did System 76 create the best option so far? Well, ask me after I had a proper daily driving experience with Pop! OS, not the beta version of Cosmic on top of a Fedora Atomic system. Regardless, Pop! OS is moving in the proper direction with their new desktop environment. So where does that put Mint? Well, it remains the most approachable distro. As a matter of fact, all the writing for this video was done on an HP laptop with Nvidia GPU and Linux Mint. But approachable doesn't mean professional ready. If you need proper multi-monitor support or a professional presentation setup, Mint is unfortunately not the answer.